kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and today, on this Future Friday, we get to talk about the asteroid belt in a series known as the Obsidian Star, a tabletop role-playing game that I'm working on, and just explaining the setting and to maybe offer some ideas for you guys when you are trying to design your setting. So we're going to get into the intro, and when we come back, please, of course, get your favorite libation or a snack or something, and stick around for our live podcast. Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and thank you very much for being part of the show. So, back in January, there was this challenge. It was called Dungeon 23, and the idea in the beginning of that challenge was each day write something, a dungeon room descriptor or something, and by the end of the year, you would have a dungeon written 365 rooms and all that kind of stuff. But that wasn't the challenge was a cover to become creative, to try to create prompts for yourself and to practice creativity. And I decided to use the channel on the day of series to be that prompt every day. Try to be creative with something random. And I decided I've always been a fan of science fiction, and I decided to use my desire for developing post-human and transhuman ideas into a setting, and this is where we are today. And we've skipped Mars. We started from the sun and Mercury and moved on out. And there's a particular reason why. So we went to Earth and the orbital ring and Luna, not the moon, Luna, and now we're in the asteroid belt. And the book series, television series, The Expanse, is one of the few science fiction media that we have as a descriptor of what society would be in our own solar system. And I feel like our own solar system is kind of it's underserved in science fiction, I believe. Too often we go from like Earth, maybe one other planetary body in our solar system, and then we're off to like Alpha Centauri and beyond hyperspace. We're in distant galaxies, and I feel like our own solar system is underserved. And in that fact, using that as a basis, creating a society in our own solar system, and that maybe utopia isn't exactly as utopic as it would come across. So the asteroid belt in the in Obsidian Star, of course, the asteroid belt would have many resources, mining operations and things like that. Now, of course, our real world asteroid belt that is in our own solar system isn't quite like you would see in movies and things. Okay, so it's not exactly this like very dense, lots of particles smashing into each other kind of thing. They're more like families, and the because of that. Ooh, what? Ooh, oh, I have my information written here. Don't do that to me, computer. And because of that, instead of this densely packed collection of asteroids, instead they're separated into what are known as families. And so I decided to use that. So instead of people being called belters, the asteroid belt, they're belters. They're just blue collar miners. Over time, it basically went through a few stages. Of course, the first stage was we're going to go out to the belt. We're going to get resources and bring those resources back. And immediately, once the capability that humanity had to reach out into space, grab a big chunk of ore that would uh, that is value untold. Once you're able to reach that and bring that back to a place, move it, mine it, hollow it out, and things like that, that became it instantly made some people quite rich and quite influential. But unfortunately, when you start taking people and moving them out into space, suddenly they're out there longer and longer periods of time. They start developing families and support services, and the asteroid belt became its own community. And the different communities within the asteroid belt started communicating with each other and attaching to each other. So, for example, what I have is um, in the asteroid belt of our solar system, a society of miners, extractors, and colonists call the void between Mars and Jupiter their home. They call themselves Asterians, not Belters. And well, the Expanse kind of dominated that part of it, so I didn't want to copy that. But they themselves call themselves Asterians as an honorific, and they're divided into clans named after the most prominent asteroid families, such as Eos, Inomina, Flora, Hungaria, uh, Coronis, Nisus, and Vesta. And so they've kind of taken on a moniker of the families that they're in. Now, mind you, they're not necessarily, they don't consider themselves to have like blood family. It's more like a nuclear family. People move out there and they do this hard work, and they've kind of become a family unto themselves and worked in the asteroid belt. Asteroids that are in the belt that are part of a family, those people have taken on that moniker in their names as their family name. So yeah, there's the four largest asteroids are like Ceres, Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, and Hygiea, and they serve as hubs of Asterian society where they interact with outsiders. And so I feel like, do they get space blunderbuss? Drew says, I cannot help but think of the Belters as some kind of space hillbillies. Yes, in some ways, yes. And there's also, I agree with you that that's the way they would think. And there's also this idea of, all right, so here in the States, we do have hillbillies, if you want to call them that. It's a pretty a derogatory name, but yes. And lots of those people live in what today would be known as Appalachia or the Appalachian Mountains and hill country in many ways. And the people in the asteroid belt kind of have a culture similarly. So in other words, the people that live there are like, we're the hard workers, we're the ones that help support you, and we don't want to be treated like cash cows. Like, we do all the work for you, but we don't get any of the results from it. On the other hand, doing all that hard work, you kind of want to, most people who do a lot of hard work for somebody else want to reap the benefits for themselves. And some of them have been able to do that because after the mining operations and you hollow out an asteroid, guess what you can put inside of a hollow asteroid? You can put a hab in there, spin it for gravity, and it becomes a great place to basically sell. It's like real estate. Okay. So, on one hand, it's like grimy hard work. We're the hard workers of the universe, and then the other, but then that shift over in like, I don't want to live here forever. I want to cash in from all that platinum and uranium and all these other things. I want to cash that in and have some fun with it. And so there is a little bit of a pressure, drama, and conflict with the people who want to leave the Asterian life, the Belter life, and move on from, like, hey, I won the lottery. I found an asteroid that's got like not just water ice on it, but it's got gold and platinum and xenon gas in it and things like that, and I can sell this and take it, move it somewhere, and relax, on a I don't know, floating island or something like that. I don't know. The equivalent of a tropical life would be, I guess, it would be in the upper atmosphere of Venus or something. Um, but the idea that you're turning your back on the family is where that drama comes from. But let's see what you guys have to say. Paranoia. Wave of Mutilations is the paranoia RPG where the world is ruled by benevolent AI. Like that could ever happen. You never know. Mm. Paranoia. I love that game. It's great. This One Eye Heathen says, "Oh, we got hillbillies." Deadman says, Psyche family would be the wealthiest after mining Psyche 16. Yeah, there's millions upon millions of asteroid bodies. Asteroid belt. Let's see. Psyche was discovered by an Italian astronomer, Annabelle de Gasparis, in 1852. He named the asteroid for Psyche, the Greek goddess of the soul who was born mortal and married Eros, the Roman Cupid, the god of love. Because it was the 16th asteroid to be discovered, it sometimes referred to as 16 Psyche. What's in it? Hmm. I didn't get it. And I'm more Science NASA. Oh, here it is. Here, okay. Scientists think Psyche may consist of significant amounts of metal from the core of a planetesimal, one of the building blocks of our solar system. The asteroid is most likely a survivor of multiple violent hit and run collisions. Yep. Common when the solar system was forming. Thus, Psyche may be able to tell us how Earth's core and the cores of the other rocky or terrestrial planets came to be. Mm. Up until recently, the scientific consensus was that the asteroid Psyche consisted mostly of metal. The more recent data indicates that the asteroid is possibly a mix of metal and silicate, the same material found in glass and sand. The best analysis indicates that Psyche is likely made of a mixture of rock and metal, with metal composing 30 to 60% of its volume. The asteroid's composition has been determined by radar observations and by measurements of the asteroid's thermal inertia, such as how quickly an object gains or re-radiates heat. That's cool. That's cool. Now, um, the the other part of exploring, the asteroid belt is that you're going to have a lot of governmental and corporate interests, people that are very rich to go out there, send individuals out there, gain resources, and bring them back. And in the beginning, that push and pull against, should I be loyal to the corporations? Should I be loyal to my own government? Should I be loyal to a rich billionaire? Should I be uh, loyal to an external force that pulled created the missions in the first place, or separate and stay out there? And unfortunately, the further you get away from home, the more you're going to have to live on your own, and that's how the Asterians came about. Un- because of that separation, a lot of the corporations, governments, and things don't trust Asturians. I mean, listen. Um, they're still wheeling and dealings with people from around the world, even today, with people that other people don't trust. Breaking that bond that, hey, listen, I paid you, I hired you, you and your family who's living off of my money, and then you're going to tell me no. So this conflict still exists in the solar system, even though the Asturians are very much needed. Also, the asteroid belt is a great place to place other celestial bodies. So, comet miners and wranglers will put large, I'll call it debris, that has been maneuvered into the asteroid belt. The Asturians actually prefer it that way, so that those things remain in kind of like their purview, and they become the ones who disseminate ice water to floating and zero G habitats that are around planetary sources, and also to kind of be like the ones who sell the water ice to other individuals, even though they're able to get it from places like Saturn, and we even as far out as the Kuiper Belt and the Oort cloud. The Asturians still hold a lot of water ice and are known as great ice haulers. Now, when a family finishes mining one of these asteroids. Now, the smaller ones, like a kilometer or smaller, tend to be ground up until they don't exist any longer. And there's millions of those bodies. But the historians do know over time that the asteroid belt is a limited resource. That at a certain point, and maybe not so near future, but much like oil here on the Earth, they do believe that at a certain point they will run out of materials, and so many of them are trying to think of other ways to help their families. And so, even today, they're trying to make connections with other communities within the solar system to one day settle. And it didn't hit so hard, but this was a concept actually in the expanse as well, where the Belters are like, oh, we want to be respected. We want to actually find a home for ourselves. But then when you find a home, you're not a Belter anymore, right? So it's like, wait a minute. If we go to another planet and then settle the planet, we're not Belters. We're actually planet based and stuff. So yeah. Mike Marin says we made a comparison between the asteroid belt and Polynesian islands yet? No, not at all. Well, no, but I do see that as well. Like you, um, Mike Marin brings up the Polynesian islands, like the Ring of Fire, essentially, and it's an area where island people who live on islands are bound by the islands themselves, and it's a great place to visit. But the people on the islands have limited resources, space, and community, right? So, unfortunately, for people that live on a bounded location, they have to worry about their own population numbers, and they have to worry about waste and food and such. And when you live on an island, anything like disease or economic upturns and downturns and spikes and valleys, whether there is a crime spree, whether there is political upheaval, it far too much affects everybody on the island quickly and devastatingly, rather than say a large continent like us in the States, where we have despite the fact that the United States we have a continental government, we also have a lot of little things, like little governmental things here and there. We have all kinds of weather and all kinds of events that, while they may affect people tangentially, it doesn't really affect them. But island life it can be pretty devastating. And those that live out in the asteroid belt, the Asturians, they actually feel that a lot too. So criminals, um, trespassers, spies, um, interlopers, people who are escaping, they want a new life. Those who are downtrodden, some of them flock to the asteroid belt, and there it's like small island with people visiting that they may not particularly want to include in their community, but they have no other recourse but to keep them into the community, to absorb them into the community. And that's where you get the idea of the families. It's like, listen, we didn't invite you, but now that you're here, you got to make a decision. Are you with us or against us? And if you're with us, fine, you're part of our family. Just prove it. If you're not, we can space you. More or less, they don't space them; they actually recycle them. But whatever the case may be, but yes, very much so. And um, like Polynesians, there's a reason why, like in the Expanse, you see a lot of them have tattoos and such. It's easy to mark your accomplishments and your desires and your loyalties and things with tattoos, because in zero gravity, you don't have jewelry, you don't have that kind of. You don't want errant tiny objects floating in zero gravity for any reason. Even in light gravity, really don't want those things. And if you go from zero gravity and start having acceleration, you don't want small objects bouncing around. That's why tattoos. Something very common in the Asturian life is either they're bald or they tend to have long braided or dreadlocked hair, and that's not gender based at all. It's either bald and no hair at all, or very long hair that's just you never cut it because you don't want to cut hair in low gravity. Wave mutations like recycle. So um, one science fiction often has when people die or are threatened or something, they like to throw them out into space. Hey, open the airlock, thrown out into space, you freeze, haha. Or there's a funeral for someone, and they put them in a coffin and you put them out in space. The problem with doing that is the moment you drop anything out into space, it becomes it becomes a relativistic um, projectile. So a dead body floating in space and a starship passing by it, when they collide, that's a problem. So when you dump trash and debris, a wrench, a couple of bolts or something, all of that material becomes relativistic impact problems. It creates a Kessler syndrome, and Kessler syndrome is a real thing where you have debris in space, and then two pieces of debris collide, shatter, making more debris, causing another collision later on. And one errant bolt or one person's dead body out in space and a starship going at 200,000 kilometers, a second, smashing into it is bad. You don't want to do that. Now, do are there funerals or are people threatened to space and kicked out into space? Yes. Uh, but yeah, you don't want a space litter. You really don't want it. You don't want to do that. Now, does it happen? Of course. First of all, sometimes people just don't think and they do it. But there's another thing too. You can also aim people into, say, you're in a space station around Earth and you kick them into the Earth's atmosphere, they're going to burn up, right? So you could push people into the sun. The criminals, we're going to get into the Jovian system, Jupiter. The threat of kicking people down into that big red storm is done a lot. It's almost like a steady stream of living and dead bodies just thrown down into the storm. So that is a thing, but yeah, you don't want to do that. One Eye Heathen says, I love this idea of the Asturians being like Polynesians with tattoos, also like the idea of no haircuts in zero G. You don't want to do that in zero G. Small objects and things like that out in space at all. Actually, in the Expanse, they actually focus on that, because I remember one time Amos was telling one of the crew members who was a new crew member. I remember the scientist's name. And he's like, lock everything away, and they're under acceleration, and he didn't lock it back correctly, or a bolt broke or something, and you have like tools and stuff floating around the thing, and yeah, it burst right through your body. Yeah, space police will bust your ass for that. Littering, yeah, literally littering. Yeah, oh man. Mike Marin says, I just like the idea of giant space Maui statues. Okay. Asteroids being carved into humanoid obelisks and markers to demonstrate and testify human presence. Yes, one thing I thought would be kind of cool is that if you're one of these families that finds a new asteroid and you basically settle your flag, literally or figuratively, and you find a big chunk of ore, that becomes like your thing. Like if somebody finds a big, I don't know, rock of platinum or something, that first rock becomes like their um, rite of passage, and they keep that one chunk in the beginning, and they basically never sell it. It becomes like a monument, like walking past it, you rub your hand on it, or held in glass in a communal area, and it becomes like yeah, that's us. Like we did that. We were here first, and those family members become, and mind you, like I said, it's a nuclear family. It's strangers and drifters and ex-corporate people who were like, I'm the hell out of here, giving up the business suits and stuff. It's military people. It's all those things pulled together, and so there's kind of like a hodgepodge where the families will shift and mutate a little bit over time, but they're still loyal to each other, even when they hate each other or they have habitat, terrible habitats. They have horrible habits, and they're not maybe not very social, but they're still family. It's like It's like you can't say anything about our family. Oh, we beat our own family's asses, but you can't say anything about it. It's kind of like that. It's when we say hillbilly, um, think of all the concepts of like hillbilly, ghetto, um, trashy. Like it's kind of like that in the sense of, yeah, you can look down on us, but but it doesn't matter when push comes to shove, we all stick together. Yeah. Wave of mutilation says a Jovian ring are made of human bodies. No, no, maybe not that many people. Oh man, yeah. When I Heathen says I'd like my remains to be composted to support a garden in a space station to feed my fellow humans when I'm gone. To be honest with you, that's how I perceive how humanity would deal with the passing of someone. That they would literally bury their body. I think there would be uh, some kind of chemical decomposition involved in it, but to make it a little bit more rapid. But I think have burying people in like a hydroponic place so that their body feeds everyone else would be a common thing. Now today, um, today we might think of that going like, "Ooh, do I want to eat tomatoes because my best friend's body was buried in there?" But to be honest with you, it's kind of what we already do anyway, right? I mean, like we're literally breathing in um, uh, the same oxygen of people that have passed. We're eating foods and things of people who's decomposed and their bodies literally have drifted in the air. So it happens all the time. But I think that would become a recycling is not like it's not a save the earth tree hugger thing. In space, everything you take with you must be usable again because it's very expensive and difficult to take things into space, including our human body. So, yep, yep, yep. Space zombies. Sacred stones have been a long history among humans. I believe there is a block rock in the Kaaba. People kiss on the Hajj. I could be wrong. I'm not Muslim. There's oh yes, there's listen, you can go around the world and the idea of I'm going to call it a touchstone in the sense of there's a monument, a block, a monolith, something that people use to look at, to rub, to touch, to feel like they belong to their ancestors. And out of respect, out of maybe you're going to a business meeting. I just need luck. You're going to dinner. You're going to your first date, and it's like, man, just rub, rub, rub. Or you're going to a casino or something. That's so common. I mean, heck, even on Wall Street, what's there? There's the bull, big giant bull, and people walk by it and rub it. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, there's the Gallery Mall, and there's a big eagle, and there's a pig. There's one side where there's a pig, another side where there's an eagle. But anyway, people walk by it and rub it. I was on a cruise ship. There was a big naked lady statue and stuff, and everybody likes to walk by and rub the behind. So yeah, wave of yeah. Did you give away your other eye for wisdom? Yeah, look at what I heathen. Standing still. Yep, the standing stones and the Blarney Stone, Stone of Science. Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's so common, right? And it makes sense too. It I mean, it really it does. A stone shaped like someone's face, maybe something just random pulled out of the ground. Um, a, the stone that almost destroyed a community or whatever. Um, asteroid impact rock that saved, and people look at it and have ideas. Each individual having their own ideas about what it represents for them. Drew says a nuclear family seems to be the wrong term since I think that usually refers to the two parents and two children model from the 50s. Is that it? Is that where it's from? Hmm. Maybe I mean um 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 mm, I think you're right. Yeah. There's another term for a non-traditional family. One that isn't just one mom, one dad, 2.5 kids. Um, there's another term for it. And I can't remember the name. I know there's a term for it. I don't know how to look it up, but I know you guys do. Okay. Um, okay. Lastly, the Asturians um, are are trying to elevate themselves, and in this particular time period of the Obsidian Star setting. There's a reason why they're trying to uplift themselves. They want to be recognized as their own government, even though they do have a lot of conflict amongst themselves. They are hard workers, and they are currently running out of the giant um, asteroids that they've hollowed out, and they really are turning them into habitats. I mean, you could literally take a tube hab, put it, shove it inside of a hollowed out asteroid. The outer shell protects it from micrometeor impacts and radiation. You cap the end, spin it on the inside, and you have yourself some gravity. And that's become the new real estate. And it's become their new cash cow, and by doing so they are creating habitats where people can live, but they also are like, hey, listen, um, I understand that, as I'm part of the Asterian family, but you know what, I think we might move. I think we might make this our own home and move it somewhere, or um, have individuals move into it. Now, there's a reason. The reason for the idea of them being kind of backwater and a blue collar, greasy fingered people is because those on the outside kind of like it that way. If you want to conduct um, training operations for some black ops, zero G space marine assassination attempt, and you want to train them up. Hey, go out into the asteroid belt. Hey, you want to engage in some kind of like von Neumann nanotechnology or genetic engineering that's completely illegal, done on unsuspecting victims. You want to commit a lot of crimes by corporations, by rich billionaires or really trillionaires at this point, governments and things like that. Go out to the asteroid belt. So sometimes the things that happen in the asteroid belt aren't their fault, but they're blamed for it anyway. And it's a great place to have experiments go wrong because it's just in one small area. And if you're mega corporation and you're doing something illegal, better just leave it and act like it wasn't your fault in the first place than to actually fix the problem. Which means that some people in the asteroid belt that get a little bit handsy, they get a little bit nosy, they'll poke their nose into things, and unfortunately, they might uncover something illegal, and hilarity ensues when uh, you know there's dead bodies and cover-ups and things like that. So there's a good reason why like major cities have red light districts. Major cities have terrible neighborhoods. And the reason is because it's an unfortunate pressure valve for all the other people who don't want that in their own communities. So where does crime get pushed? Let's push it over into the bad neighborhood. Where do the uh, rich and enabled and privileged people want to go to sate their own dark uh, decadence? They go to the bad neighborhood, and the asteroid belt has kind of been relegated into the terrible neighborhood. And of course, the asteroid belt is like, well, what about our police? What about our protection? Coming out here, and unfortunately, they're so disparate. It's a little bit difficult to police it. So on one hand, they want to demand this kind of thing, but on the other hand, it's very difficult to do so. They have to police themselves, and they have to kick out interlopers and such. And sometimes kicking out those interlopers are actually allies of other families that are trying to make a deal. So that's where the conflict comes in. And I'll tell you, and then I'll give away the why it's created that way, so you guys can kind of design something on your own. It doesn't have to be scientific or science fiction related, but why I created it. So One Eye Heathen says nuclear family is two parents and however many kids. It's a fairly new model since it was far more common for the grandparents to live in the same house as late as the 30s and 40s. That's kind of returning now. Um, 3 and even 4 generation families living together, just because it's so freaking expensive. Housing is so expensive now here in the States that it's kind of returning back to that. Yeah. Yeah, indeed, my heathen brother. Fuck that noise. Tradition can bite my ass. I like that. I like that mantra. Yeah, a nuclear. Thank you, Mike Marin. A nuclear family, elementary family, atomic family, serial packet family, or conjugal family. Wikipedia. Ah, I've heard of. Well, today you hear about um like there's like polyamory and what is it, constellation families and things like that. I, yes, I'm thinking of, I would have to come up with a term that represents a non-traditional family, but the pattern of that family doesn't have a pattern. So the number of individuals in that family in a relationship to each other could be quite fluid and couldn't change immediately by some passerby in a escape pod that or 15 individuals that wanted to leave their corporate overlords and they're like, we want to live here. Or it could be four individual family members that wanted to that had nowhere else to go and they're just looking for work and such, and then they end up getting pulled into a family of sorts. And I don't mean, none of this means sexual, but yes, there polyamorous families that are, have a sexual nature. Yes, of course they do. It's tight communities and things. And of course, when you bring your bad habits with you, if you were kicked out of a community because of that, that's it's a weird ism that the Asturians are very, um, they understand. They are, despite the fact that they break each other's chops, they also understand that some people have psychological and physical um, oddities, social nuances that people can't navigate very well. And in this community, they're just like that. They're like, oh, Joe over there, yeah, for like a month at a time, Joe just doesn't talk. Like, well, why? Joe's got to work it out himself. Joe just doesn't talk. Whatever. That's just it. That's Joe. What a, it's not, they don't question it. It's just a thing that just becomes a norm. So I've always wanted to live with an asteroid with my space cat Bruce. Yeah. Farm some fungus and settle down. Yeah. Hey, Ricker, what's going on? Been a little while there. What's up? Yeah. Yeah. One eye heathen says, yeah, as long as things are done between consenting adults who are informed and enthusiastic, great. Exactly. Exactly. There's, yeah. I should have put that in there too. Like, yeah, underage or non consent. No, none of that stuff. But yeah. Mm-mm. Drew says, I think instead of family, the term would be more like a tribe. I agree. I definitely agree with that. It is more tribal, and more tribal governmental style, right? Because when I think it's 100 people. We looked this up before. I believe it's like the number is 100 um, individuals that can operate together without a governmental structure. It's the life of anarchy before structure is determined, and so the Asturian families are like that. It's things need to get done, so it gets done. Are there elders or leaders or professionals, or are there rankings? Of course there are. Does that ranking kind of get fluid a little bit? It does as well. So somebody raises their hand, not necessarily raise their hand, but they're like, listen, we need to get these air scrubbers done. You come with me. We're scrubbing air scrubbers. And other people are like, oh, I don't want to. And they're like, if you don't want to spit out green sludge out of your lungs, we need to get this done. And so people just volunteer to do it, or they're volunteered by everybody else or whatever. So it's very, it's a lot of anarchy, the way it's done, but it just works. The moon, he might be thinking of something similar to a line marriage, like in the moon is a harsh mistress. Is that the line? Yeah, hairless cats in space. Yes, because you don't want to have hair floating around. You better have a vacuum nearby. They start having a lot of hair. So I guess they would have to be hairless. All right, so that's enough about the asteroid family. I'm going to give you a look into like, who could you be in this world, or what would you be? Um, When Heathen says, "Ooh, given that governance would often have to be done on the spot, I guess your Asterians would be more like people in the moon. In the moon is a harsh mistress." Oh, okay. Yes, read that classic hard sci-fi if you haven't. I think I will. The moon is a harsh mistress. Robert Heinlein. Yes. Oh, okay. I was like, that sounds familiar. Is that a movie or something? Nope. 1966. Yep. Science fiction novel by American writer Robert A. Heinlein about a lunar colony's revolt against absentee rule. And that's kind of like what I'm thinking about in space, that you start leaving people away. That would be like us. Let's say we all get together on a trip and we have to leave like Antarctica or the Arctic Circle or some distant uncharted island and have to live there for months on end. Yes, we may have supplies or something from a distant individual, but at the moment we'd have to govern ourselves. And so I think that's yeah. Time to clean the air filters for cat hair again. Yes, that's a huge problem. And um I believe this isn't, for role playing purposes, this wouldn't be very exciting, but I believe that there would be a caste system of people, high or low, depending on where you're at, whose only job is to maintain homeostasis in a space habitat. Meaning, like, these are the individuals who keep things clean, the air, the food, to keep disease in order. Like, I think they wouldn't necessarily be police. I think they would just be it would be a job that someone would have that would control the tight community that would exist in space to ensure that, like, for example, hate to say this, you'd have to police people that kind of don't wash up, or the people that are constantly bumping nasties and making too much noise and everybody can hear it, you know, or the errant disease that comes into the station because people aren't screening visitors, or maybe they need a new influx of genetic material from other people, like those kind of things. Yeah. So, and yes, cleaning the hair because somebody just happens to have a pet and they're like, who's got the cat? Damn it. We've got 2.8% of our population sneezing all the time. Yeah, the people of the DBJ tribe will caress the subscribe button. Oh, thank you there, Drew. Very much so. Okay, so I really agree, really appreciate that. You guys are okay. Okay, so um, to trail this off, I want to give you guys an overview of what kinds of characters exist in this world and what kind of individuals you could become. So, you guys tell me, do you want to go with what you would physically be, what your jacket would be, like your physical form, or do you want to go more mental, like um, profession kind of professional, factional, um, moving into post humanity? Like, which one would you like for that? So I'll keep talking about the wrap up the last part of the Asturians before I get into that. So Asturians that leave the asteroid belt, they do leave. It's not like you can't leave at all, but they are dedicated to each other. So when they see each other from long distances, or they happen to run across each other, there is this begrudging, like, you know, uh, it's the chin nod, like, you know, you kind of raise the chin, like, I see you over there, and so there is a bit of that when with related to each other. So which can be a little bit unfortunate for other people because of their dedication to each other. They might exchange information other people want to keep secret, and it's because of their dedication to each other. And I feel the same can be said about those of us that grow up in particular communities. Um, if you're military, two military people come across each other just because they never served with each other, those two will have a bond. And you find out that they're both military, they start communicating, boom, they automatically have a bond. They start having conversations and such. So, all right, kind of both. Okay. Mike Mayer says, I can absolutely see people bringing contraband pets into space and it being a huge point of contention. Yeah, yeah. They're already treated like family members. It would be hugely controversial to abandon them. I absolutely agree. And then you listen, and then you've got high technology. So the pets probably are smarter, and they also may represent pets. Some There's a reason why we love pets. And from what I understand, especially with very rich and famous people, um, pets always treat us honestly. And they bring us, when we think our head is in the clouds, they bring us down. Listen, some people, they literally have a pet and walk that pet because they got to clean up their shit. Why? Because that pet doesn't give a damn how much money you have, how much influence you have. And so some people use pets to unconsciously to bring them down. So you guys, right. Like, man, I love that. Hell, that's straight away a moral dilemma quest. Does the smuggler cat get airlocked, or can the party find another decision to save it and compromise? Could you imagine? That could easily be the tipping point on solving a crime or saving someone from being being recycled. Or it's like, could you imagine a criminal overlord is like, fuck, they've got my cat. Get my cat back from them because someone kidnaps the cat. And it's like, yeah, dude, but you shouldn't leave. Like, you're like a crime lord on your own personal moon around Jupiter. Like, why would you leave? And like, I need to get my cat back. Right? Hell yeah, I love that. All right, okay, so I'm gonna go through this very quickly so I don't I bore you guys a lot. So bear with me here. All right, so let's go with this. All right, here we have cogs. What are cogs? Cogs are cognitives, cognitions, post-cog, precognition. Cogs operate in the world connected to an AI that can uses data to predict the future. Um, Cogs both use the predictive abilities of the AI to stop crime, predict hazards, to arrive just in the nick of time, but also their presence records information that's being downloaded back to the AI. Cogs, the best part of cogs are they've got danger sense. They seem to arrive just in the nick of time for where something is. They're like pre-crimers from Minority Report. Those are cogs. The bad part, cogs are people view the cogs as trying to build God. They are trying to create an AI. They are trying to build Skynet in many ways. For in their mind, for good. For everybody else, they kind of look at it as bad. There's a REMOs. REMOs are remote operators. Just like today, we have extremely professional drone operators. REMOs carry their drones on them. And some of these drones are like crawlers, like spiders or crabs. Some of these drones are like snakes. Others fly around. But Remos are absolutely positively needed for all kinds of delicate work. There are for non-player characters, there are specific Remos. Maybe someone works in 0G and all they do is repair bulkheads. There might be people on a planetary surface like Earth or on Europa, and all they do is operate drones to dig for ore. But PC Remos kind of incorporate all that and they kind of backpack them. So Remos might have like drones on their shoulders and a couple in their backpack and a couple on their hips and stuff. And they use these to fly around, manipulate, fly, move. They are spies. They gather information with they use attach weapons to them. They might even be distant medics and things like that. There's Intelites. Intelites have used genetic material to enhance their brains. Intelites tend to be bald. Their skulls tend to build up a lot of heat. Some of them even have mechanical implants that are extended out of their brain cavity. Drew says, in what sense do the cogs try to create a deity? Through a computer program. Titan is the Moon Titan is a data processing facility, and that's kind of like their home world, if you want to say it. Cogs are the science fiction version of fantasy warlocks and clerics. If you want to, if you have to make a combination, Cogs completely trust the AI systems that tell them and show them predictive elements, right? So they don't have a fear of an AI taking over humanity and killing everybody. As a matter of fact, their whole mission is for that not to happen. They're trying to create a godhead, or at least that's what outsiders believe. What you believe, you're a player character. You can come up with whatever you want. But from the outside, people believe that cogs are literally trying to create a godhead AI, and an AI system that knows us better than we know ourselves. And so, yes, but on a base level, cogs are like investigators, police, rescue. Um, Again, they have many, and there's a little bit of a religious kind of context to them. So they will show up, and when they show up, everyone looks around like, "Oh shit, what's about to happen?" And even the cog may not know. They're put on a mission. You need to be here at this time because a terrible thing may happen, and it could be micrometeor impacts. It could be gang-related warfare. It could be an assassination. They don't even know, but they don't need to know. Cogs are like, nope, we're supposed to be here and do this thing. And some of them are put on missions like, your job is to reminds me of Foundation of Westworld. I like it. Yeah, a player character could be, you need to get here, wait, give a message to someone, and just leave. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure. They don't question it. Now, you and I would be like, why? What? What's this mean? What's the message say? Cogs, they don't care. They're just like, a cog agent might meet a player character, give them a blueprint or a disk or data core or something, and just walk away. And the PC is like, oh, cool. I've got my program to break into the bank vault or blah, blah, blah. But the person that dropped it off has no idea, and they don't even care. They're like, my job's to be here, show up, give you the thing, and walk away. So those are cogs. Intellites are intellectual individuals. They are people whose whole purpose is to highly advance the processes of their brain, and so they use implants. They use uh, other genetic modification, cybernetic implants, anything and everything. They're intellectuals. And intellites are the equivalent in space of athletes back here. So they're not physical, they're mental. But sometimes you want an intellite on your staff. You want them to show up. They're there to they become teachers. They are not diplomats, but they can be historians. They are criminal wise. They can figure out the best way to break into that bank vault or whatnot. Intellites tend to be very neutral, so they don't really care about crime. They just love solving problems, and they're constantly working on problems and things like that. So, yes, there's the Kresh, Kresh. The Kresh are clones, and most of the 99.9% of the Kresh seem to look alike, and they are born in these pods. They take pride in that, born in pods, and they look and sound and act alike. Now they are different ages, but 201, when they gather together, most people, it's very difficult for them to tell each other apart, and they take pride in that. They consider themselves to be a hive family. Now, technically, they aren't hive minded, but they can be if they want to. And strangely enough, sometimes one Kresh will take the place of another Kresh, and people won't even notice it. And they are like a clonal family, and it's very bizarre. Like people, they have a very uncanny valley about them because they tend to look like everybody and nobody. Um, they're like the clones in the Clone Wars. They're clones of each other, and they do have a dedication to each other, and tend to have a nonverbal communication or finish each other's sentences. And when because they're spread across the solar system, when they learn things, they love to share that information with the others so that they become an information pipeline. Um, The Kresh are part of an experiment. They are willingly part of a social experiment to find out if humanity, maybe it's better for humanity to all be one. If we could, if we could get rid of all of our differences, what would we be like? And the Kresh are that experiment, knowingly and openly. Um, the Neuroforge are, this is another group. The Neuroforge are individuals who buy, sell, and trade um, personalities and skills. So they tend to implant, they have a way to implant and remove chips in their brains that give them certain abilities. If you, the closest thing I can think of is an old television show called Dollhouse. Um, these individuals love to buy, sell, and trade with each other, different personalities. Drew says, can those types procreate with each other? Yes, but they prefer to do it. They prefer to do it the scientific way. Yeah, can they have sexual fun? Yes, they do. But they prefer to do it unnaturally in a creche. It's like your the pod that you're born with. Maybe you're born with like 5 others that were brought to maturity, and it's kind of a point of pride. Um, they tend not to want to um, dirty up the gene pool. And if they have to, they will prefer to spread that genetic material to others in the group, which is why it's a bit of an uncanny valley. So they don't have a specific look. What they'll do is they'll take a genetic look and spread it through the others over time. So they do look different, but it's a slow wave. Like it's like 8 months ago, didn't they all have like blonde hair? Why is it all black now? But it just slowly will change. Smuggled cat, Bruce is. Oh, your cat, Bruce. That's funny. um, so yes, and they do have personalities. They're not mindless. They're not, but they tend to like the same music, and it's like I said, it's bizarre to other people. But yeah, they tend to like the same kind of clothing. Usually, usually something that's not very bright or attention getting, because the whole purpose of it is that they are trying to blend together. They are trying to be with each other. Now, is there an underground of some of the Crush who don't want to be part of this anymore? Of course there is. Yeah. Um, okay, so the Neuroforge, they love having a bunch of different personalities. Some of the Neuroforge even plug in the personalities of family, friends, loved ones. They make copies of each other and they pass it around. It's nothing for them to edit, delete, reinsert a memory from someone else or themselves. Um, the the strange thing is that there are, because they like to buy, sell, and trade different personalities. Um, it, they are known to be part of a black market of copied personalities of individuals around the solar system. They don't want to be that way, but there is an underground that they're the first people that people go to if they find out like there's a black market Einstein personality running around somewhere. Yep, plug-in personality. TikTok. Yes, I guess it would be like that. Um, there's also um, there are systems that can track your gait. So when a human being walks, all of us have, our walk is like a fingerprint, and they can literally plug in a personality that changes the very nature of their body. Sometimes their heart rate will change, their voice intonations will change, the very language they use will change. Their height changes, standing tall, slouching a little bit, leaning to the side, using certain types of slang, um, the skills that they have. It's all different, and they can uh, plug in, remove one, plug another one in, things like that. So, for example, let's say a thief broke into that vault to steal some information. They could pass it off to another Neuroforge, remove their personality, switch personalities, and the police will go after the same physical body, but the real personality left in somebody else's. So, there is a little bit of that horse trading that goes on with the Neuroforge, and um, it's really weird. But also, another dark side is that they can torture people psychologically by forcibly making someone relive, say, a traumatic experience from someone else. So let's say someone unfortunately was burned. Um, they have technology to capture someone and make that person feel the experience of somebody else who was burned, things like that. They can also delete information, and so they are memory thieves as well. Um, the Azore aren't really a clan. They're just individuals who have very blue, purple, black, midnight skin that protects them from the harsh radiation of space. And um, it's a sign of a lot of extraterrestrial people who work in space, in the void of space, or under the harsh conditions of the Jove, Jupiter. A lot of people in Jove, people that work in the Solaris system, in Mercury, and the satellites that exist around there. The Azore are kind of like, it's like a point of pride. It's like getting your whole body basically dipped in dye, and it can go from like a dark blue to purples, maybe a little bit of fuchsias are mixed in there. It's usually one simple color all the way to deep black. And um, it's not that it's not reversible, but it's a point of pride, really. Now, it's not very common amongst the rich and elite. It's very common amongst those who work in the deepest of space. And so protects them from radiation and things like that. And also a side effect is that they do have a sense of like solar radiation, solar flares, and things of that nature. Um, farmers, begin with the PH. Farmers are individuals who have the ability to internally modify and create different types of concoctions inside of their body. They generate pheromones. Some farmers are actually produce illegal drugs um, that are taken from one place to another, so that they can hide them inside of human bodies. They're basically human beings that produce the equivalent of like cocaine and meth and things like that. Player character farmers can create concoctions that can heal people. They can breathe out noxious fumes. They could spit out acid. They could. They have glands inside of them that produce these materials for themselves and for others. Um, let's see. There's cybrids. Cybrids are cybernetic individuals. Cybernetics exists all around the solar system, but cybrids specifically are better with cybernetics than they would have been with their human capabilities. And so cybrids can like unplug a hand and put a tool in it. They have hidden components inside, so they can like maybe hide a firearm inside of their forearm or their leg. And uh, Mechanically, cybrids can sacrifice a body part uh, in combat. So they can they get shot. They can roll a die, and maybe they get shot in their cyber leg, which means that they really kind of don't take damage, but then their leg doesn't work anymore. That kind of thing. Right? Ricker says, heard player character farmers hit with an F, and my first thought was a monster that was notorious for killing PCs. No, no. Drew says farmers that heal you with their spit. Yes, yes, they do. They can. I love it. Very witchcrafty. It's also kind of there's a disgustingness in it. Um, Farmers are like living drug dealers. They are also living healers and pharmaceutical processing individuals. So yes, you would think that if there's a farmer on a space station, that the first thing they would do is arrest them. People that have influence or rich or want to party would love to have a farmer or two come to their parties, right? So on one hand, everyone's like, publicly they're like, oh, we don't like that, but people come up with excuses for why they still exist. Zeros are the most bizarre. Zeros are people inflicted with a communicable digital virus. For some reason, Zeros are their digital footprint erases from digital information. Now, when a player hears that, they're like, "Sweet, my character is invisible to senses like mechanical senses. Like I can't be recorded on video. I can assassinate someone and disappear, and no one knows who I am," which is true because that's what zeros are. The problem is doors don't open up for zeros because they don't have a digital footprint. Many of them can't get paid for jobs. Despite the fact that they can have relationships with people physically, there is no digital footprint, so they can't. They have no social media at all, and so there are zeros are the lowest form of humanity in the solar system. There's lots of very large habitats that have zero communities on them, and it is communicable. So being a zero means someone else can catch your digital virus, and many people have built up great relationships online, and they have a virtual reality hab and things like that, and they don't want to lose that. um, most most zeros, if not all of them, are never able to rise very high in society, in a extremely technological society. So they have to live together and work together. So there is an underground zero community, because how do you buy passage onto a spacecraft if you don't have a digital account? If they can't record your presence on the starship, if you're taking ill-gotten goods on their ship and they don't have a way to record it, people don't like zeros. And there's no they've been trying to figure it out, because it's a digital virus. It's not something you sneeze on someone. It just so happens that when you are recorded, that recording will start to delete itself, and your intimate relationship with other people, their information will start to get deleted. When I hear this, is I love to hear about this. But yeah, it's really weird. Yep. Have a great one. Have a good night's sleep. It's hella early for you. Let's see. Let's go into the Arden. Ardens are uh, adrenal uh, adrenaline focused individuals, much more martial and meditative, and what would I call it? Like a person that's trying to become zen, than a little bit. But Ardens are um, adrenal related individuals, so they can control their job. Um, Drew says, I probably would call the zero as null, but also cool idea. I thought about using null. I thought about using some kind of like erasure kind of thing. I may change the name. It's still fluid, but the idea of them, I thought it would be kind of cool. They have one of the most kick-ass abilities, and also they're kind of like the worst community, because they're like families that huddle together in the bottom of space habitats that are like, yeah, we're zeros and we can't really get much work done. We have to be paid under the table, and most people don't like us hanging around and stuff like that. So yeah, so the Arden are essentially, they are like monks in the um, Shaolin and bald spot type of monks, Sistine Chapel type monks. But they're also badasses as well. They are able to increase or decrease their uh, what's dumped into their adrenal system, so they can go into their own self-imposed hibernation. They can increase the cortisone or dopamine or other kinds of adrenal effects in their body to give themselves greater endurance. Calling them 404s in slang. Yeah, yeah, yes. The zeros. Yeah. King. I can't do the sound effect, but it's like, oh, boom, 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 boom. Like, nope, you're not getting through here. There's a problem. Yes. Zeros also have the inability to sometimes operate kind of vehicles. It's difficult. Like I said, they can't just wave their hand or walk in front of a door and it opens up. They have to manually punch in a code to get through things. So yeah, they could assassinate someone and no one will know who's there. But that one person waiting at a door because it won't open, you pretty much find out who that assassin is. Or sometimes the absence of information is information itself. So if they go back and look at old footage and there's a bunch of people talking to no one there, it's probably a zero. Now they might not know which zero it is, but yeah, can't trust them 404s. You know how they are. Yes, and many of them were, they kind of have to steal food. They have to steal power and things like that because there's no way to give it to them. Because someone would say, why are you putting power down into the, I don't know, the warehouse area or something? Are there people living there? And they're like, well, yeah, there are. Well, our sensors don't show that. You're siphoning power to nobody. And someone's like, there's people living there, and the guardsman or something is like, no, there's no one there. Evacuate the place, turn it in the vacuum, turn the power off, and act like you didn't know this happened. You're like, but those are innocent people. They're not people, they're 404s. Um, okay, so what else is with Ardens? Ardens can heal their body. Ardens can go into suspended trance state. Ardens are often able to help people meditate through, because of loneliness and boredom in space. They are often used as a way to Ardens can talk people through. They're like psychologists and psychiatrists. Um, they are assistant program individuals as well. Yeah, in case people don't know who don't know, yeah, 404 is the not found error that shows up on computers. Yeah, you ever punch in a website and the website is dead? It'll go to a 404 screen. Yep. Um, what else? Ardens tend to be excellent body contortionists, martial artists, things like that. Genomancers. So genome answers, I guess would be a better way to pronounce the word. Genomancers are individuals who actually suffer from a technological disease, but this one is physical. They have basically broken DNA. Unfortunately, most they actually are suffer from genophage, and genophage is basically when you f with your own genetic structure, problems will happen and your DNA will break. The physical manifestation of that is the fact that um, genomancers are very Lovecraftian just before they die. So most of them do not live to adulthood, unfortunately. So they will grow an extra eye or a mouth or limbs or their organs on the outside. And the minute their DNA starts to break, and mind you, you could be 12 years old, and then all of a sudden start to show symptoms of genome phage, and if you have a genome phage, it's just a horrible. But there are people who actually are able to live through it, and they help others live through it. And a genophage, a genomancer is able to modify their own DNA, and they use outside DNA to modify their bodies. So they can find a DNA from somebody else and take on their physical form. They can take on their voices. They are like shape changers in many ways. The community in space does not like that. Unfortunately, they can they mutate as well, and they do have the ability to kind of like get rid of those mutations or have them removed, but it is pretty nasty, and they can actually willingly grow some of those mutations, like an extra arm out of the center of their back, or an extra eye in the palm of their hand, or an extra mouth off the side of their neck, or something like that, and some other pretty nasty things. Um, uh, a genophage outbreak on a ship will very quickly have people eradicate those individuals. So genomancers do not want to walk around openly with it, because there's some habitats that are very harsh about getting rid of that disease. And so It's a power and a limitation themselves. There are individuals known as the Zenith. The Zenith have what time is it? Okay. The Zenith are the epitome of what they perceive to be human, physical, physical representation. They are strong, quick, fast. They are the Zenith are good looking. They are mesomorphs to the to. They are all the individuals you ever see in old style catalogs that just happen to. This is a weird thing to say. Zeniths all look beautiful of any and all genders and any gender in between, but they kind of all look the same beautiful, if that makes sense. They are, despite the fact that people can get jealous of them, zeniths are still very popular as a goal or a genetic mod or something like that. Zeniths tend to hold lots of public positions. They are politicians. They are the face in the media. They are musical acts and actors and models and they are mouthpieces. They are the good looking people that sell drugs to other pharmaceuticals. They're representatives of pharmaceutical companies that go to doctors to sell stuff. That it's very artificial beauty, and unfortunately, it works. Uh, from the outside, we go, oh, roll your eyes like they think they're all that because they're beautiful. And guess what? In our real life, we think that, and guess what? Beautiful people still have it better than the rest of us. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And these are individuals who have embraced it to the point of the beauty being. It's difficult for us today to think of this, but they have they have a physical um, perfection that we haven't reached yet, but is technologically viable in the future, if that makes sense. So it's almost the equivalent of distilling perfection. And when I say perfection, I'm talking about a physical perfection, um, distilling it down into something that even we haven't comprehended yet. Um, and Drew says these are all the physical forms. If so, then maybe do the mental next week, since it's indeed rather late. It is. Yes. So a lot of these are like physical, and there's a couple of mental modifications, but most of these are physical. So yep, that's it. So we're done. There's 12. There's literally 12 of them. So be aware this goes in groups of 12. So there's like 12 sectors in space. There's 12 of these. There's 12 professions. 12. So yeah, so we're going to stop there. So ran through those really quickly. I kind of wasn't expecting to do that, but I said, there's some time at the end. So just to give you guys some thoughts. Lastly, why the hell am I going through this, and how does it benefit you guys at all? So long story short, I love to have things when creating something in a sandbox. There should be toys in that sandbox, and so I've specifically. Drew says, I like the stuff you presented today. Thank you. I specifically create things to be broken. So, character options, people in the asteroid belt, and Earth, and all these things. I specifically put things in there for a player. If you guys are playing in my game, I want you to go, well, what, do well, wait a minute. Wouldn't that mean that if this happens, then that would happen? The answer to that is always a yes. In my book, it's always a yes. So um the idea of putting toys in the sandbox is, yes, I think there's a bucket and a shovel and it's used a certain way, but you may go, no, 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 no. We need to put a hole in the bucket and take the shovel and break it in half. And I'm going, it's your sandbox, whatever. I just put the toys in there. So I also love the number 3. So every region I created, there's at least 3 points of drama, of tension that's created. Like, for example, the asteroid belt. The belters themselves, the Asterians themselves, are a family, tight knit community, but they are in conflict with each other because many of them want to leave. Others are drawing people in. There's also interlopers coming in. That's a second point. that you have people who are from the outside who don't understand this culture. And how do you deal with that? Well, you kind of have to embrace them or get rid of them. And lastly, you have the people who created this in the first place: corporations, governments, rich billionaires, religions have let people go out to the asteroid belt on the hopes that they bring all that wealth back. And those people went out there and kind of stayed, and they're like, yeah, I'll give you some wealth, but I need my cut too. And so there's another point of contention. So I like to have at least three. Yeah, I live for the drama, at least in fiction, not much at the table. Yes, no table flipping, but I like to create friction points so that, um, unfortunately, in fantasy, sometimes we can get into our own head. Guess what? To the west is the evil lands, and it's all evil, and to the east it's all good lands, and it's all good. And it's like, well, yeah, but what's going on? Where's the drama? Like, in the evil lands, are there people that live in the evil harsh lands that are like, I'm tired of this bullshit, I want to emigrate, I want to get asylum into the good lands? Are there people in the good lands that are like, this society is oppressive? I understand there's no war and everybody's got medicine and food and stuff, but I have no freedom. I can't talk openly. There might even be people that are being disappeared from their homes because they're speaking up against the way the rules are. If you just speak up a little bit, there's somebody to knock you down. I want to go to the evil lands where it's all free. Like, there needs to be some tension. You can't just have a, a static realm, because then there's nothing for the player characters to bump up against. And I always like to create something that if the players don't move the world will move them. If a In other words, I like to think of a player character doing nothing, standing still in that part of the world. What happens to them if they don't interact with anybody and they stand still? They fold their arms and they're just like, yeah, not really interested. What happens? Does somebody walk up to them? Who says a thing to them? Will somebody ask them to move because they're in the way of something else? What goes on? Will an alarm go off and they have to move because of danger? Or will there be a criminal that will come up to them and try to pickpocket them? Like, what move? If the player doesn't move, what can move the player? And so I like to create that kind of thing. Like, no, you can be there for a couple hours, but after a certain point, yeah, you're going to have to move, and here's why. And so that's why I like to do that stuff. So thank you very much there, Drew, and you guys. Yes, it's getting a little bit late. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. If you come this far, please like, share, subscribe. Go to the Discord, interact over on the Discord server, please, with everyone else. Please, thank you so much. Please and thank you. Everybody have a great weekend. Your time is valuable. Thank you very much for spending it here. If you're going to spend this much time here, I really appreciate it, but I hope I was able to make some change for you. Guys, have a great one. I'll see you guys Monday. Peace.